Yeah, good morning everyone. Welcome back, friends. So yesterday, remember we have seen about CCNA and the Cisco certification path, and we said CCNA is CCNA routing and switching. These are the three major concepts in CCNA. And then we have seen like how to go for examination of CCNA. How many questions will be there? What about marks? And then there is something called dumps and all those things we have seen. And after completing CCNA, if you want to go into like Cisco path only, the network path, or the certifications that are offered by Cisco, then you can go with like CCNP and up to like CCIE. But you know, CCNP and CCI, there are many parts that there are many options we can choose, like routing and switching, security, wireless, and all those things. You can go up to CCIE. Okay, now after CCIE, there is something called architecture. Actually, there are totally 5 levels, but like I said yesterday, generally we talk about only 3: NA, NP, I. Before CCNA, there is something called there is something called a entrance level, something like this, a technician level course. Okay, so you can start from there also, but normally, you know, people don't start from there. We can simply go from CCNA. That's more than easy. Actually, that's possible. And after CCIE, you can become a architect. Maybe like around 10 years of experience you need to become that architect, but still after CCA there is one more option available, that is architect. Okay, so overall, if you can reach till CCIE, friends, then you know you have achieved something huge in your career in a way. CCIE is one of the most difficult in a way, I can say, and one of the highly uh, demanded course all over the globe. But the problem here is there are very few jobs on CCI. But anyhow, once you reach CCI, you will be like having like 5 some years of experience. Okay, so still there is a way to reach till CCI. And once you reach, you can get any one CCI, CCI routing and switching or security or whatever. So your complete career can be based on CCIE itself. So that much is there in CCI. Okay, so we have these 3 options. But like I said, if you're not planning for like CCNPs and CCIs, if you're planning for like securities or virtualization or cloud computing or whatever, CCNA routing and switching is mandatory for everything. Okay, done. So we know the examination path and we know all these things, right? Now let us move and let us see some other things. Let us see some basic things today. Now to begin with, let us see what exactly is a computer network. We know the definition of computer network. Remember in the workshop session I already shared with you. Devices connected with each other. That is a computer network. Devices connected with each other. Why devices are connected? For sharing. And what we can share? We can share data. We can share hardware. We can share software. Okay, we can share internet, remote access, etc. This is what a computer network is all about, friends. Computer network is devices connected with each other for the purpose of sharing data, okay, hardware, software, and accessing remote devices. This is a computer network definition. Okay, fine. We are aware of this, like computer network is connecting devices and all those things. Now, what we need to see today is we need to see like how they will be connected and what devices we use and what are the functions of each and every device. See, a router and switch is one of the devices that we use in a computer network. Routers will take around 2 weeks. Switch will take around 1 week of classes. So what we are learning today is we are just learning the basics. I'm just introducing these devices to you in a way. Okay, so that once you move into the devices, it will be more easy for you to understand, okay, what exactly is a router and how to configure a router, what is there inside the router and all those things. Now, so what devices we use? The devices that we use in a computer network are, of course, computer, server, router, switch, firewall, cable, etc. These are the devices. These are the most common devices. So beside this, we have many more devices, but these are the most common devices we have in, I can say, every computer network. Maybe firewall is not available in every network, but coming to computer, server, router, switch, and cable, this will be there in every computer network. So let us see one by one in what are these devices and what are the functions of these devices and what we need to see in these devices. We know computers very well. We are using computers for like many years now. We can say computer or a laptop, whatever. So one is a computer, and there is one more device here, that is your server. Now, when you talk about computer and a server, there are two things we need to see. One is the hardware part, another one is the software part. So computer is a physical machine, and that computer has a operating system. A physical machine will not work without a operating system. Yes, a physical machine will not work without a operating system. Now, first of all, in your computer, what are the main physical components? Like we have CPU, central processing unit. Normally we have like i3 or i5 or i7 or i9 is also getting coming now. Okay, so we have these processors in our computer. So you may take a computer or laptop with i5 processor, i7 or i9, and we know a general thing like, okay, if you go with like i5 instead of i3, that is much better. If you go with i7 instead of i5, that is much better. So higher the number, the latest features, the latest speed and latest option we will get. Okay, so CPU is one of the main component in a computer. Fine. Now then we have a component called RAM, random access memory. We know minimum we are getting like 4 GB RAM nowadays. Minimum 4 GB RAM we will get in a computer. But 4 GB RAM is not enough for a computer or for a laptop. 4 GB RAM is very basic. You should have at least 8 GB. If there is 16 GB, well and good. We can get 32 GB as well as 64 GB. 4 GB RAM is not sufficient, friend. Minimum it should be like 8 GB RAM. But if you can afford and if you can take 16 GB RAM, then your machine performance will be much better. Okay, so there is a component called random access memory. It is a temporary memory. Okay, every computer laptop has a particular capacity. So 8 GB and up to 16 GB. Just try to take a computer with 8 GB or up to 16 GB. 32 GB and 64 GB will be used in special cases. We no need to take 32 GB for personal use or 64 GB for personal use. If you want to go with like virtualization, if you're going with like multimedia applications, if you're using multimedia applications, then better go with 32 GB or 64 GB. But normally for your professional work, for your work, company work, or for your home purpose, 8 GB and up to 16 GB is more than enough. Okay, then we have like hard disk. We'll get minimum 500 GB hard disk, or we can get like 1 TB or 2 TB. This is more common nowadays. 1 TB and 2 TB hard disk we can see in most of the computers. So it's not a big deal. Hard disk is a device where we keep our data permanently, where we store our data permanently. We know this very well. So whatever we do, whatever files we download, whatever files we create, whatever folders we create, everything will be stored in your hard disk permanently. Okay. RAM is a temporary storage and hard disk is a permanent storage. Fine. There is one more component here that is called NIC card, network interface card. So if there is no NIC card in your computer, you can run your computer. Or suppose your NIC card is not working in your computer, so you can switch on the computer and you can use the computer. But if the NIC card is not working in a computer, the computer cannot be connected to a network, and that network can be internet or intranet. What is internet here? Internet is public network. Any person can access internet. You just need to pay some money to any ISP and we can simply connect to the internet, and whatever is there over the internet we can access. You can access google.com, you can access facebook.com, you can access Netflix, you can access any games, you can access YouTube, and you can access everything over the internet. Okay, but there is something called intranet. Intranet is private. Intranet is your company's network. If you are working in a company like Wipro, that Wipro has a company, the Wipro has a computer network, and that computer network is a private network. Any XYZ person cannot enter into the Wipro company, he cannot start using the computers there. Who can use those computers? Who can use those network? A person who is already an employee of that company, a person who is working for that company, that person can access the Wipro network. So we have internet and we have intranet. Okay. Now NIC card, if there is an NIC card, if there is a working NIC card in your computer, then that computer can be connected to your computer network, and that network can be internet or it can be intranet. So minimum one NIC card must be there on every device, whether computer, server, router, switch. Minimum one NIC card should be there. So on every computer and laptop, by default one NIC card will come. On motherboard itself it will be there, but if you want to increase, we can increase also. If you want to add 2 3, or if you want to add some more, we can add some more. So what we need to see in this NIC card, we need to see the speed. NIC card speed will be like 1000 Mbps nowadays for sure, and you can get NIC card up to like 10,000 Mbps also. Okay, that much speed is possible. But normally on computers and laptops we get 1000 Mbps. But if you take high configuration computer, then you can get 10,000 Mbps also. Okay, so that much speed is possible in NIC. So if you take more speed, the network performance will be better. Your computer performance will be better. But see, unnecessary, no need to go with like 10,000 Mbps and like 32 GB or 64 GB RAM or i7 or i9 processor. If there is a need, we can take that machine with that configuration. But normally, we can see computers with i5 or i7 processor, 8 GB and up to like 16 GB RAM, 500 GB or 1 TB hard disk, and NIC card will be only one with 1000 Mbps. This is what a computer is all about, the hardware part. Okay, of course motherboard is there. Okay, motherboard is there, and motherboard, everything is connected on motherboard. Now there is a question here like HDD plus SSD, both is the combination in hard disk. See, there are different types of hard disks we have. One is called SATA hard disk, SSD hard disk is more famous because of speed and all those things. Okay, so we have different types of hard disk. We are not discussing anyway the types and all those things, but yeah, there is a question. So there is a SSD hard disk also, which is much better in performance. Okay, but coming to your normal hard disk, it is a bit more costly. Okay, fine. So whatever, but we need a hard disk with some capacity. Okay, now coming to server. In server also, friends, we have like CPU, we have like RAM, we have like hard disk, we have like an NIC card. The same components are available in server also. What is the difference between a CPU of server and CPU of computer? See, in server also there can be some processor like maybe i3, i5, i7. There are some different families there. There is something called Intel Xeon that is more famous actually. So we have different processors. But what we need to understand here is when you see a computer motherboard has a processor, and there will be only one processor on this computer motherboard. I'm talking about physical. See, this is your computer motherboard, friends, and this computer motherboard has one physical processor, And this one physical processor can be i3, i5, i7 or i9. But there is only one processor. That one processor is more than enough. But if you go to this server, the number of processors minimum it will be born. It can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4, and it can be more. I am saying the physical processors on a server can be more than one. On a computer or a laptop, it will be only one. But on a server, it can be like 1, 2, 3, 4, or it can be more. There can be more physical processors on a server. See, this is your server motherboard actually. And you can see clearly there are like 4 processors here. This is one processor. This is another processor socket. This is another processor. So we have like totally 4 processor sockets here. Okay. And coming to RAM. If you take 32 GB or 64 GB RAM in a computer, that is too much. But you know, in server, the average or the initial RAM is like 16 GB is possible, 32 GB is possible, 64 GB. This is very basic. This is very basic RAM in your server. You can get 512 GB also. You can get like 6000 GB also. In server, you can get some 32, 64 GB or hundreds of GB or thousands of GB. That much RAM is possible in your server. So why that much RAM is needed actually? See, this is your server, and how many RAM slots you can see here? All these are RAM slots. We have many RAM slots here. So in every RAM slot, we can connect at least one RAM, and the capacity of that RAM can be 16 GB or 8 GB, 16 GB or even 32 GB. So see how many RAM slots we have. Many RAM slots. But if you go to the motherboard of a computer, we have only 4 RAM slots. 4 is maximum actually. Normally in laptops we get 1 or 2. In many desktops we get maybe 2 only. But if you take a desktop, better take a desktop with 4 RAM slots. So there are only 4 RAM slots on a motherboard of a computer. But coming to the server, there are many RAM slots here. That means we can add more hardware in a server. And coming to hard disk here, friend, in a computer it is 1 TB, 2 TB, but in a server it can be 10 TB or 500 TB or 3000 TB or more. We can have some hundreds of TB of RAM. We can add some hundreds of TB of RAM on a server. That much is needed actually, because server is a machine where all the users are connected and all the users are saving data in a server. So obviously we need to add more storage in a server within a company. Now just imagine YouTube. How much storage can be there in a server like a YouTube? YouTube is running on a particular server, and that server is connected to some storage. Storage means your hard disk. See, daily how many people are uploading videos on YouTube? You can see like maybe single movie is uploaded by many people. Okay, so there are many videos that are repeated. So any person can create an account on YouTube and any person can upload anything on YouTube, right? So daily maybe some thousands of TB of data is uploaded on YouTube channel. So we can see literally everything there. We can see any cricket match, we can see any movie, we can see any other thing on the particular YouTube channel. So just imagine how much size can be there on YouTube. YouTube is a public network, public server. So that is a different business. But within our company, friends, like suppose there are 500 people working in a company, all the 500 people are connected to server, and all these 500 people are saving data in this server. Okay, all these 500 people, they will save data in this server. So according to this 500 people data, we need to take a server with like this much hardware, maybe like 20 TB hard disk, 10 TB hard disk, 50 TB hard disk, whatever. Okay, so but in a server we can connect huge number of hardware. We can connect high capacity hardware. Like coming to hard disk, we can connect some hundreds and hundreds of TB of hard disk, and that much is needed actually. Normally when you take a server, it will be like 20-30 TB. It's very small server. If you select 20 TB hard disk, maybe like some 500 people are working, so 500 people can save data in this server, and that server has 20 TB capacity. And coming to NIC card, there is one NIC card, there can be 2, there can be 3, there can be 4, or there can be more. See, this is your motherboard again, and here you can see clearly there are like 3 NIC cards. These are the 3 NIC cards on your server motherboard. But when you go to the computer motherboard, there will be only one NIC card. So many people are connected to server. So NIC card is a place from where the data will enter and exit in your machine. So if there is only one NIC card, then there is more traffic there. So one NIC card cannot handle that much traffic. So we have like multiple NIC cards. So 3 NIC cards will handle your traffic. So your data movement will be very smooth, and it will be very easy for server to accept anything and to forward anything. Okay. Yes, Faraj, I can see you're raising your hand. No, Swaraj, I can't hear you actually. I see you raise your hand, but still I can't hear anything. I think you're trying to say something, but I can't hear you. So can you please text me? Can you please send me a message? Okay, so this is about your computer and server. This is about your computer and server. Okay, so this is just a hardware. Now we know one more thing. A computer or a server will not run without a operating system. So in your computer, friends, we use a operating system, and that is your 95% cases we go with Windows client OS. Like we use Windows 8 or Windows 10 or hopefully Windows 11 very soon. These are the operating systems we can use. Okay, so every machine has an operating system, and in your computer the operating system is Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, and very soon, like I said, it will be Windows 11. Now coming to server here, friends, in server also there is a operating system. Server is a machine that runs on a operating system. Without OS, a computer cannot work, a server cannot work. So what are the what are the operating systems we can use in a server? There are two major operating systems, right? One is from Windows, that is Microsoft Windows Server OS. Like right now we have 2012, 2016, and 2019. These are the operating systems we have from Microsoft. 2022 also they have launched. Okay, and another one is Unix. From Unix we have Linux, Solaris. There is a OS from HP. There is a OS from IBM, etc. These are the operating systems we have in server. Okay, there is a question here, like regarding the NIC actually, network interface card. You mentioned that without NIC card, internet won't work. Is it applicable only for the physical cable connection? See, for Wi-Fi also there is a Wi-Fi NIC card. So if your Wi-Fi NIC card is also not working, that means your Wi-Fi is also not coming there. So when I say NIC card, I am referring to physical NIC as well as Wi-Fi. So physical NIC should be working so that we can connect physical connection, and Wi-Fi NIC should be working so that we can access internet through Wi-Fi. In both the cases, the NIC card should be there and it should be running. In most of the desktop computers, the Wi-Fi NIC card is not available. It is only physical. Wi-Fi NIC card is available in most of the laptops actually, right? So whatever, whether it is physical NIC or whether it is a uh, Wi-Fi NIC. You need a working NIC so that you can connect your machine to the network. Okay. Okay, friends. So these are the two things. These are the two devices, computer and server. So we know these devices for, we know the computer for very many years, but when you compare a computer with server, we can see the components are same. The only difference here is computer has less hardware compared to server. Server is having more hardware capabilities. Computer, if you take like 8 GB or 16 GB RAM, like I said, it is more than enough. But in some cases, in a server, if you take 512 GB RAM, then also it is not sufficient. In computer, if you take 2 TB RAM, that is like more than enough. But in some cases, in server, if you take 500 TB hard disk, that is also not enough. So hardware components are same, but the size and the capacity and the speed will be different. So when you take a computer with like i5 processor, 16 GB RAM, i5 processor, 16 GB RAM, let's say 1 TB hard disk and one NIC card with like 1000 Mbps speed, and suppose you go with like Windows 10 operating system. You know, for this computer, this is a very healthy configuration anyway. So for this computer, we need to spend approximately $1,200. $1,200 will be around 80 to 85,000 Indian rupees. If you want to go with this computer configuration or laptop configuration, we need to spend around $1,200. But if you go with a server, and suppose in server you're taking two processors and say 64 GB RAM, and let us go with like 10 TB hard disk. Okay, and then suppose you have taken two NIC cards and you have taken Windows Server 2016 operating system. For this machine, you have to go, you have to pay around, let us say, $4,000. See, there is some difference in price also. For server, you are spending more money, and for computer, compared to server, you are spending less money. Because in server, you are getting more hardware capabilities, more hardware options, and there is a separate operating system for server. So we need to spend more money then. Server has a different work. What is server? What are the services? What we can do on server? All these things we will see in Windows Server Administration. That's a different thing. Right now, we are just comparing the hardware here. So you can clearly see server hardware has more speed, server hardware has more capacity, okay, compared to a computer. That much is needed in server, and whatever we have written about a computer, that much is more than enough for a computer. That's it. No need to take like 20 TB hard disk for a computer. No need to take a computer with like multiple processors. Not needed. Okay, that much is not needed in a computer or a laptop. Okay, fine. We know about computer and a server now. Let us move and see about router and a switch. What exactly is a router and what exactly is a switch? CCNA is basically for router and switch, right? So let us see. Let us spend more time here now. A router is a device that makes communication between two or more different networks. This is the most basic definition we can see about a router. Router is a device that makes communication between two or more different networks. Now, when I say networks here, there are two types of networks. One is a physical network, one is a logical network. We will see both the networks. Logical network will take around 6 classes for us, 5 to 6 classes. That is IP addressing. That IP addressing we will start tomorrow. Okay. See, before I say anything about router, I'll just try to make one thing clear here. From tomorrow, we are entering into the administration part. We are starting our IP address concept. So when you come for tomorrow's class, you should do one thing. When you sit for the class, you should sit with a pen and a paper, pen and a book. Because IP address is a topic that is all like numbers, binary, decimal, hexadecimal, all these numbers will be there. And IP address is one topic that you should learn perfectly. That is the reason instead of taking 3 classes, I am going with like 5 to 6 classes for IP addressing. We should not get the knowledge of IP addressing. We should get the perfection in IP addressing. Okay. So IP address is a network. Actually, it is a logical network. So that we will start from tomorrow. So from tomorrow, please be regular and be on time. The class is at 7 a.m. So be in the class at 7 a.m. And the next thing is just sit in the class with a pen and a book. Because when I do some calculation, you should do some calculation there. I'll show you some calculation here. I'll ask you to do some calculation there. Then we can compare our answers. So that is the way to learn our IP address. IP addressing is one of the most important topic we have in computer network. Not only CCNA, I'm saying like whatever you do over a computer network, IP addressing is the most important topic, and that IP address you're learning only in CCNA. Okay, fine. So let us move back to the router. So what I said, router is a device that makes communication between two or more different networks. That is the main function of a router. See guys, every device has some functionality. Every device has a purpose in a network. Let us open our network again. This is a computer network where we can see servers, routers, switches, all those things. Server has a different purpose. Computer has a different purpose. Firewall, switch, printer, every device has a purpose. So in the same way, router is also having a special use. Router is having a special role to play in your network. So what is the role of the router? What is the purpose of a router? It makes communication between two or more different networks. That is the only purpose of a router. Okay. So if there is no router in your company, you cannot access internet. If there is no router in your company, you cannot make communication with the branch office. So for everything, you need a router. Normally people think like, okay, we have a company where there is no branch. See, there are many companies which is working, which has no branches in a way, right? They are working only in one place. Maybe like there are 3,000 people there maybe, but there are no branches for that company. It's not compulsory like every company should have a branch. So if you're working in a company where that company has a single branch at a single location, then in that company also we should take a router. Because when I say like it will make communication between different networks, that means I'm talking about internet also actually. How many networks are there over the internet? There are some millions of networks. So router will make communication between your private network to the public network. Private network is your company's network. Public network is your internet. So again, we have to use a router. Router is also used as a security device. Router can also be used for sharing your internet with all these people. We will see all these things. But again, router is a device that makes communication between two or more different networks. Fine. Now, in router also we have two parts. Router as a hardware as well as a software. Now, before we see hardware and software, let me just tell you like what companies are providing these routers services. Like Cisco is a very famous company. We know this. We are learning CCNA, so we are learning about Cisco routers. There is a company called Juniper. There is a company called Huawei, etc. These are the three most famous companies we have for routers. Okay, Cisco, Juniper, and Huawei. I can say like around 90% of market, 90% of companies all over the globe, they use any one of this router. At least 80 to 85% I can say they use any one of this router. So we are learning about Cisco router. So if you know about Cisco router, Juniper router and the other company router, physical, it will be same. The components will be same. But coming to operating system, how to use the operating system will be different. I repeat, when you take Cisco router and Juniper router, physical components will be same. Physically, how the router is designed, what is there on a router, what is there inside a router, it is same. Now, what protocols we use on a Cisco router and what protocols we use on a Juniper router is again same. How to configure there is an IP address in a Cisco router, there is an IP address on a Juniper router, that is also same. But the difference here is how to assign an IP address on a Cisco router is a different way, and how to assign IP address on a Juniper router, there is a different way. Like maybe you're aware of Linux operating system. So when you compare your Windows operating system with Linux operating system, there are some differences there, right? Windows operating system is more easier to use. It is graphical and more easier to use. But coming to the coming to the Linux operating system, so if you know Linux, it is easy. But when you start learning Linux operating system, it is a bit difficult. So Windows and Linux both are operating systems, and use wise, commands wise, configuration wise, they both are different, but concept wise they both are same. Like you can create a file in Windows machine, you can create a file in Unix Linux machine, you can create a folder here, you can create a folder there, you can install some application here, you can install application there. Concept wise they both are same, but using wise they both are different. Here also same. Cisco routers, Juniper router, or any company router. Router is a router that makes communication between devices, whether it is Cisco router or Juniper router. It makes communication between different networks. Hardware, it is same component, same names, everything is same. But what is the difference here? How to use a Cisco router and how to use a Juniper router, the operating system will be different. That is a major difference we have. Okay, so let us just compare our Cisco router hardware. Like, in our computer, we have, of course, motherboard. So here also there is a motherboard. We have like CPU. Here also we have CPU, RAM, NIC card, hard disk. Same components are there in router also. Okay. But coming to RAM, 1024 MB is equal to 1 GB. I hope you know this. 1024 MB is equal to 1 GB of RAM. In your computer, if there is 8 GB RAM, that means you should multiply 8 by 1024. That will be approximately like 8000 plus MB of RAM is there in your machine. But coming to routers, friend, a router may have like 32 GB RAM, not 32 GB actually, it is 32 MB. 32 MB of RAM, or it can be like 48 MB, or it can be like 64 MB. See, 1024 MB is 1 GB. I am saying in a router, it can be 32 MB of RAM. 32 MB is no capacity, right? 32 MB is not even like, 1%, or maybe like not even like 5% of your 1 GB. So is it sufficient? 32 MB, 48 MB, 64 MB? Of course, it is more than sufficient. This much RAM is more than sufficient in your router. And coming to this CPU, normally we take CPU in gigahertz. 1024 megahertz is equal to 1 gigahertz. In your router, this processor speed will be in megahertz. It will be in megahertz. It will not be in gigahertz. Okay, if you take very high series router, high configuration router, it can be in gigahertz. But in most of the routers, the speed is only in megahertz. NIC card will be like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or etc. NIC card is like, it will be more. And coming to this hard disk, again, how much hard disk? 1024 MB hard disk. 1024 MB is 1 GB. Yes. So 1024 GB is 1 TB. I hope you know this calculations, man. 1024 GB is 1 TB. So normally when you take 1 TB hard disk, you are getting 1024 GB. And in 1 GB, we have totally 1024 MB. But compared to this router hard disk, in router, you may get a hard disk with 32 MB only. 32 MB. I'm not saying 32 GB here. I'm just saying 32 MB. That much hard disk can be there in a router. So see, CPU speed will be in only megahertz. RAM can be like 32 MB or 64 MB. Hard disk can be like again 32 MB or 64 MB. This is the configuration of a router. This is the hardware of a router. So this hardware is more than enough actually. This hardware is more than enough for a router to function. This hardware is more than enough for a router to run. Router is a device where we are not creating any files or folders. We are not downloading anything. We are not uploading anything. We are not like what we do in a computer, like downloading movies or uploading movies or whatever. These are the things we don't do in a router. Router has a specific IOS. Like all the other devices, router also has a iOS. In machine it is called OS, here it is called iOS. iOS stands for Internet Operating System. There is a separate operating system designed for your router, friends. Like, you know, a computer and a server, there is a Windows operating system and there is a Linux operating system. But coming to router, there is a separate OS design that is called iOS. It is called Internet Operating System. This operating system is designed by Cisco itself. This operating system is designed by Cisco, and this operating system is a CLI operating system. Cisco iOS is CLI, command line interface. I repeat again, friends, just listen carefully. When you take a computer, we use a computer in different ways. We do browsing, we open a audio or a video file, okay? We create some files and folders, we make some documents and all those things. Computer is designed for all these activities. But coming to router, what is the function of router? Router is a device that makes communication between two or more network. That is the purpose of a router, okay? In router, we are not making any browsing. There is no browser available in a router. In router, we are not creating and files and folders. Again, router, we cannot play any audio or a video file. These activities are not possible on a router. What is possible on a router? We should configure a router in such a way that router can make communication between your network and the other network. So router is just used as a mediator between two networks. It is not having anything else. So for that reason, whatever hardware I have mentioned here, this hardware is more than enough, because it is not saving anything. It is saving very less data. It has very less configuration there. The purpose of router is to take information from your company and pass information to some other company. Technically, it is called data or packets actually, but I'm just saying information here for a general basic class. So I'm saying from your company, it will take the data and it will pass the data to some other company. It is working as that only. It will not save anything in its local storage. Whatever configuration we do in a router, that configuration will be there in a router storage. But if you share your data from your server to a company which is there somewhere in, like say, Dubai, if you have to share data from Hyderabad server to Dubai server, or Hyderabad server to, like, suppose say, Australia server, then router will forward the data. That's it. It will not keep anything in its own hard disk. This is what a router will do. Okay, so router hardware is very less. It is very less actually. When you see like 32 MB of RAM, that is very less. When you say 32 MB of hard disk, it is again very less. But I am saying this much hardware is more than enough in a router to function smoothly. This much hardware is more than enough in a router to make communication between any number of branches. This is your hardware part. And coming to software part, see, hardware will take one more class actually. I'm just telling you, I'm just, you know, we are just discussing the differences between a router, computer, and a server. But router hardware will take at least one class. There are something called internal components and there are some external components, so that we will see in coming classes. Okay. Now, coming to the operating system, like I said you, there is a separate operating system designed for router. It is called Internet Operating System, and this OS is designed by Cisco, and it is a CLI operating system. So you should know how to use that CLI operating system. It will take minimum 2 classes for us to see how to use it. Then we can see how to configure the router. But to use that iOS, the Cisco iOS, it may need to spend minimum 2 classes. Suppose if you're learning Linux administration, you should first know like how to use the Linux operating system, right? In this same way, if you have to configure a Cisco router, you should know how to use that Cisco iOS. So this is the router hardware part and this is the router software part. We need to see more details about router hardware and software in coming classes. Okay. Now, if I replace this router with a switch, everything will be same. Switch is also same. Switch also has CPU, RAM, hard disk, but there is one extra thing here that is called port. In switch, we refer in NIC card to like a port. So there can be like 24 ports or 32 ports or 48 ports or 64 ports. This is the only extra thing we need to add in a switch. But there will be RAM 32 MB, 48 MB. There is a CPU, again it will be in megahertz. There is a storage, it will be like around 32 MB or 16 MB or maybe like 48 MB. And there is the operating system in switch. It is same. It is the internet network operating system that is designed by Cisco. So what Cisco has done here is, when they design the iOS of a router, the same iOS they designed for the switch. So if you know how to use the router iOS, you can use a switch iOS also. It is completely same. But I should not say completely same here. They both are same, but there are certain commands we use in router and there are certain commands we use in a switch. There are many commands which are common in router and a switch, but there are certain commands that are only there in router and there are certain commands that are only there in switch. So once you finish our router and once you enter into the switch, it will be very easy for you to use a switch, because you know switch iOS is designed exactly the same way the router iOS is designed. Let me just show you one simple practical here. I'm just taking some random router here. We will see all these things in coming classes. And this is a switch. We can see these are two different devices. One is a router and one is a switch. So this is your router and this is your switch. Right now you can see both the devices are coming in the same way. Now, can you see router and there is a symbol there? I can say enable here. I came here. I can say config T here. And it is changing something here, right? First it was router and the greater than symbol. Then router, there is a hash symbol. Then router, config and hash. Now coming to switch here. So instead of router, it is written as switch. When I say enable here, same thing is coming, switch and hash. In router, it was coming as router and hash. Now if I say config T here, see, in router, it is coming as router, config, hash. In switch, it is coming as switch, config, hash. So this is your iOS. This is your operating system. So there are many commands which are common here and there. But there are certain commands, like for example, if I say show IP route, this is a command that we can use only in router. So we got some output here. But if I say this same command here, like show IP route, what it says, invalid input detected. So this command is related only with router. We cannot use this command in switch. But if I say show VLAN here, see, I'm getting some output here. When I say show VLAN, I'm getting some output. Now when I say show VLAN here in a router, it is saying invalid input detected. So the operating system design is same, but there are certain commands that we can use only in router and there are certain commands that we can use only in switch. So these are the differences we need to understand. So router has its own protocol, switch has its own protocol. Router has its own purpose, switch has its own purpose. Router will make communication between different networks. Switch will make communication within your network. A switch will forward your data within your network. There is a main difference. You cannot see a computer network anywhere without a router and a switch. These are the two devices, these are the two components that are must in every computer network. Okay, so router hardware and switch hardware is similar. It has very less hardware, because again in switch also we cannot browse anything. We are not creating any files and folders. We cannot like open any audio or a video file. That's not possible. There is a operating system in switch also. There is a operating system in router, but that operating system is designed for a specific purpose. And what is the purpose? Just to configure a router and a switch, not for browsing purpose and all this purpose. Okay, so one of the main thing we need to, there are two main things we need to learn. One is hardware. It will take one class for a switch and a router, and the operating system, it will take like two classes for us to learn how to use the operating system of a router and a switch. So once you know these two parts, then we need to see like what configurations we can do on a router and what configurations we can do on a switch. So the configuration part will take like around 10 classes on a router, and configuration part on a switch will take around 5 classes. So that is the main thing we need to learn in a router and a switch. So I repeat again, friends, please listen carefully. There are many companies which manufacture your routers and switches, but we are learning about Cisco routers and switches. Cisco is a company that manufacture your routers and switches. But once you get a job in a company, and suppose there are some other company routers and some other company switches, technology will be same. No need to worry. If you learn CCNA and if you go to a company, if there is a Juniper router there, no need to worry. The technology is completely same. The concept is completely same. How to configure, that will be different. Juniper router also has a OS. Juniper switch also has a OS. How to use that OS, there will be some differences there. Those differences we need to see once you go to some other company router. Okay. Now, router and switch, like I said, you are mandatory in every network because what they do, no other devices can do that for. Router can make communication between two networks or more networks. Router can be used to share the internet. Router can be used to provide security. So these are the works done by a router, and there is no other device that can perform all these things. And coming to switch, switch is a device to which all the other devices are connected. So there is no other device which can replace your switch. Okay, so these are the two major components of our computer network, or two major devices of our computer network. So we should simply see some more hardware here, and we should see how to configure this iOS. So I hope you got some very basic idea. When you compare something with your computer, things will look very easy. We know computer very well. CPU, RAM, hard disk, we know this configuration. So the same configuration there in server, but when you compare computer and server, you can see server capacity is like too much. That much is needed in a server. Like I said, in some servers you need 500 TB of hard disk. That is needed. In some servers you need 512 GB of RAM. In some servers you need 4 physical processors. That much is needed in a server because server work is completely different. Server is providing services. Server can save data. Server people can access server to get the data, to save the data, upload the data. It's a different work. Coming to router and switch, these are just making communication between devices. They are simply taking, technically it is called traffic. It is called network traffic. Technically they will just take the network traffic and they will pass the network traffic to other network. They will take the traffic from your branch and they will pass the network traffic to some other branch. That is what a router will do, and within a company, that is what a switch will do. Okay, so I hope you understood what is the router and what is the switch hardware wise. Hardware wise, it is very less. And coming to the operating system, there is a very separate operating system that is dedicated, that is designed for your router and a switch. So you should know how to use this operating system. Okay, so it will be very easy. Don't worry, the use of operating system will be very easy. All these commands you will see in more details in coming classes. In this user mode, there are many commands. Privilege mode, many commands. Here there are many commands. So one by one, we will see about the configurations and all those things about routers and switches. Okay, and before I stop the class, let me just add one more component here, one more device actually, which is again quite famous. That is your firewall. Firewall is a device, name says everything, firewall. It is a device that is used for security. You know what firewall will do? Firewall will not allow any person to enter into your network. See, there is a firewall here and there is an internet. So whenever someone from internet is trying to enter into the network, the default behavior of a firewall is it will say deny, it will say no, you're not permitted. That is the default behavior of a firewall. Now in case, like nowadays work from home is very famous. Work from home is very common nowadays, right? Because of COVID restrictions, people are working from their home. So if you're working from your home, that means you're sitting somewhere here on the internet, right? You'll be connected to your company's servers and you'll be working there. So then what we have to do as a security administrator? We should use a firewall, and in this firewall we need to add, okay, this particular person with this number, with this IP, with this name, whatever credentials, this person should be allowed. Exactly, there is something called VPN, virtual private network. Okay, so we need to configure that in firewall, and what firewall will do, it will allow you to enter. There are some millions of people connected to internet right now, but out of all the millions of people, maybe firewall will allow, like say 300 people there. because 300 are the employees. So these 300 people credentials we need to add into the firewall. So if firewall is matching everything like name, IP address, password and everything, then it will select, okay, you're allowed here. So you can come inside and you can go and communicate with this server. But if some unauthorized person is trying to enter into your network, then firewall will select, okay, you're not matching in my database. Your name, your number, your IP address, and whatever, it is not matching in my database. So you're not allowed. You'll be just stopped here. That is the work of a firewall. And when you go with like CCNP security and the security classes and security courses, then you will be learning about firewalls and all those things. Okay. Okay, there is a question here like, what is a hub? Uh, hub is like physically it is like a switch, but 99% cases we are not using hubs. Why we are not using hubs in 99% cases? It will take one class for me to explain actually. When we start about switching, friends, there is a topic called what is the difference between hub and switch. Then I can explain things in a better way. But as of now, I'll say only one thing. Hub is an unintelligent device. Switch is an intelligent device. Switches work in a better way. Hubs will not work in a better way. Actually, before they design this switch, this is your hub actually. This was the example I have taken. This is also hub and this is a switch. So what is the difference between hub and a switch? It will take at least one class for me to finish that topic. But as of now, I can say only one thing. Hub is an unintelligent device. Switch is an intelligent device. Okay. But again, we will see the differences because, one of the most famous interview questions they will ask you is, what is the difference between hub and a switch? So we have to see the differences, friends, and we will see those differences. Okay, by mistake, I said OS here actually. Like there is a question here, like what is the difference between router and switch? Any software difference between router and switch? No. In router, it is called iOS. In switch also, it is called iOS. Like I showed you, operating wise, they both look same, but there are certain commands we use in router. There are certain configurations we do only in router, and there are certain configurations we do only in switch. But overall, they are same. Okay, firewall, is it a software device or a hardware device? It is a very common question, right? Firewall, is it software or hardware? Firewall is hardware and software. Firewall is a hardware device as well as a software device. If I show you like Cisco firewall, there is a very famous firewall from Cisco. It is called ASF firewall. See, this is your hardware. So firewall is a hardware device as well as a software device. Okay, this is from Cisco. If you go to a company like Fortinet, this is a very famous firewall again. There is a firewall from Juniper. See, all these are firewalls. They look something like a router or a switch here, but still it is a firewall. So firewall is a hardware device as well as a software device. Software device means there is something called ISA, Internet Security Appliance Firewall. See, this is your software firewall. This firewall we can install on a server and we can use it. This is from Microsoft actually. So this also can be used. What is the work of a firewall? The work of a firewall is to protect your network from unauthorized access. No one should enter in your network. No one should go out of your network without permission. That is what a firewall will do. The best firewall actually is a hardware firewall that has more options and better performance compared to software. In majority of cases, the companies will go with the hardware firewall. But there is a software firewall also. That is called ISA firewall, Internet Security Appliance. This is a firewall offered by Microsoft. And there are some more firewalls, software firewall. Antivirus is also something like a firewall. What antivirus will do? It will protect your computer or it will protect your network from virus. So that is also something like a firewall. But coming to the actual firewall, in majority of cases, we see only hardware firewall. And in this firewall also the operating system will be there. and there are certain configurations there. All these things will be there in firewall. But in CCNA, friends, there are two classes in router where we will learn about firewalls. There is a topic called ACL, access control list. So in this ACL, we need to see like what is a firewall, what are the functions of a firewall, and how to configure. We will see how to stop communication between different computers or different departments or different branches. We have a topic there. Okay, firewall is a topic. And coming to switch, in switch also there is a security topic. So there we will see about some security features. But if you want to use a dedicated firewall in a company, actually firewalls will not be used in small companies, because small companies cannot afford a firewall, and if they take a firewall, they need to take a security admin, they need to hire a security admin. So small companies, maybe they cannot afford a firewall, so only like medium or big level companies, they will go with firewall. Small companies, they may use a router to provide security. Small companies, they may use a software firewall to provide a security. Security is must everywhere, and it's not like only firewall can provide security. There are some other devices also like router and server, they also can provide security. So the small companies may go with that option. Instead of using a physical firewall, they may go with that particular option. Okay friends, so this is something about firewall, just for knowledge purpose. I hope you understood what is firewall and how it works. So in case if there is no firewall in your setup, the internet will be directly connected to your router, and router we can make this device work as a firewall. Okay friends, so that was the basic class. I hope you got some basic idea about routers, switches, especially hardware part, the operating system part, the use and all those things. You got some basic idea. We will see more about routers and switches. Routers will take like 2 weeks, switch will take like 1 week. So just imagine 2 weeks we are learning about a router. So that means how much we need to learn there. There are many more things we need to see about router. We'll start from the basic, we'll start from the scratch, and we'll go up to like the communication part. To make communication between 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever number of networks we have, we can make communication there. Okay, so with this we have completed our basics, the 2 basic classes we were supposed to see, just to make sure like you get some idea, you get some brief idea before we enter into the administration part. And like I said you before, tomorrow friends, I am going to start IP addressing. In your school, in our college, especially in our school, when we go and write our school exams, there are some questions for like 2 marks, there are some questions for like 5 marks, there are some questions even for like 10 or maybe like 15 marks. I hope you remember this. So what we used to do, remember, if there is a question for like 10 or 15 marks, we used to prepare that question very well, right? We used to just, actually in school we used to only memorize things in a different way, right? But still, 10 marks question, 15 marks question, we used to prepare very well, so that if you answer that question, you're getting more marks. So if I just give some marks here for your networking topics from all the technologies, IP addressing will get the highest mark. If you're good in IP addressing concept, you can configure, maintain, manage networks in much better way. So IP addressing is the topic which is one of the most important topic a person should know. Okay, and CCNA is a course where you are learning about IP addressing topic. So this IP addressing will be starting tomorrow. And again, when you come for the class, please be here at 7 o'clock. The class is at 7 a.m. I'll start class at 7 a.m. and if you miss the starting 15 minutes, then the remaining 45-50 minutes are like only you're just trying to catch up. Okay, so please be here at 7 a.m. so that you can understand things in a better way from the basics. Okay, so that is one thing. Please be here at 7. And the second thing is, sit in the class with a book and pen. So I'll show you some practicals here. I'll show you some configuration here. Then you can do some configuration there. That is the way to learn your IP addressing. So I'll just make sure after like 5 to 6 classes, you feel more comfortable in IP addressing, because this IP concepts you will be using for rest of your life in whatever technology you work. Okay friends, so that's it for me for today. So with this we have completed our basic classes, and tomorrow we will be entering to the actual subject, and IP addressing is the class tomorrow. So that's it for me for today, friends. But still, I'll be here for like a couple of minutes. If you have any doubts, any questions, we can see. Then we can stop the class. And one more thing, MCSE starts today at 8:30 a.m. So people who are planning to come for both the classes, they can just take a break for like 15-20 minutes and they can come for MCSE at 8:30 a.m. Okay, so it's over to you now. I'm done. Okay, there is a question here, like if router and switch has having same software and same hardware, then router connects multiple network types of, then why router connects multiple different networks and switch connects multiple different, switch connects the same network. Okay, see here, every device has a role to play. Every device has a specific work. Router is designed to make communication between different networks, which is designed to make communication between same network. Remember I told you the components, the hardware components will be same in a router and a switch, these components. But beside these components, we have some other components. There is something called internal component and external component. So we have not discussed about internal components and external components. We have just compared our router and switch with our computer and server. That's it. But there is something called, fast Ethernet port. There is something called serial port. There is a console port. There is an auxiliary port. There is a gigabit port. There is something called NVRAM. There is something called flash. These are the different components we have inside a router and a switch. So router is designed for one purpose, which is designed for one purpose. Router is designed to make communication between two branches. Switch is designed to make communication between, to establish communication within the network. iOS will be same, but the main difference, like I said, is router is designed for different, to make communication between different networks. That means there are certain protocols in router that are working only in router, and switch will make communication within the network. That means there are some protocols that are working within the switch. So router has its own protocol, switch has its own protocol. What we have seen today is the similarities. We have only seen the similarities. We have not seen the differences here. If you want to see some differences, that means in router we have to do something called LAN configuration, WAN configuration, routing protocol, access list, NAT path. These are the things we have to do on a router. And coming to switch, switch has a different set of configurations. Like in switch, there is something called MAC table. There is something called VLAN. There is something called trunk, BTP, port security, inter VLAN. Okay, see, can you see any topic which is matching between router and switch? No. I just said like hardware wise they are same and operating system is similar. But in operating system, these are the things possible in router, and in switch operating system, these are the things that are possible. The concepts will be completely same. They both are different devices, so they both have a different work. Actually, there is an answer in your question only. Venkatasai, there is an answer within your question. The question is, switch connects multiple devices in the same network. Of course, it will connect. And your router question was, router connects multiple different networks. Exactly, that is the answer. So actually, there is an answer within your question. So just remember one thing, router connects multiple different networks. Switch connects same network. Just try to remember that. Things will be more easier for you to understand. Okay, friends, so that's it for today. And tomorrow we'll start IP addressing. So please try to come as early as possible. Just try to join at 7 a.m. so that you can understand IP addressing concept in a better way. And one last thing for today. In case if you miss any class, I have already said this before, and in case if you miss any class, before you come to the next class, just watch the video of your previous class, the recorded session, and come for the next class. Because every class is related to the second class. First class is related to second class, fifth class is related to sixth class, 15th class is related to 16th class. So they both, all these classes are connected with each other. So in case if you miss any class, and if you are coming to the next class without referring to the recorded class, then it will be very difficult for you to understand the topic. Okay, so please follow these things. Within 1 month, you can say like, okay, this is a router, this is the IP, this is a switch. You can easily configure any size computer network, any number of routers, any number of switches. You can easily configure everything. Okay, fine. That's it, guys. Thank you. Thanks again for joining. See you tomorrow at 7 a.m. with our IP address topic. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.